President Trump's first budget expected to be delivered to the House of Representatives any moment now. But some Republicans are already declaring it dead on arrival. Let's bring in American Action Forum President John McCain's 2008 presidential campaign economic advisor and the former head of the Congressional Budget Office, Douglas Holtz-Eakin. Douglas, 4.1, what else do you do, right? A $4.1 trillion plan includes it's cuts to the growth in spending. We want to make that very clear. How much does this really tackle our fiscal problems?
The central problem we have on the fiscal side is the growth of the big entitlement spending programs. It's the Medicare's, Medicaid, Social Security Affordable Care Acts in the budget. President Trump took Social Security and Medicare off limits during the campaign. They're left with taking a good hard look at Medicaid, and they've done that in this budget. But that's just starting the process. Until all of those programs are reformed, two things will not be true. Number one, we won't get the red ink under control and we'll continue to have problems. And number two, we won't have really good programs. I mean, the hidden truth is we're spending a lot of money on substandard programs. We need a better Medicaid, a better Medicare, and a better Social Security program.
Doug, the budget projects economic growth of 3% over the next 10 years, sustained economic growth of 3%. I've got two questions. One is that credible? And then the other question relates to the tax policy. The Trump administration is projecting a $1 trillion increase in revenue relative to the baseline. Given the tax cuts that they're proposing, is it credible that they'll get that big of an increase in revenue?
It's hard to say. On the 3% number, that's in the feasible range, but boy, that's hard work and would require lots and lots of good policy, very effective tax reform, very effective reform of the regulatory state, an infrastructure program that doesn't waste the money but is sensibly targeted on national connectivity and ways to make the economy work better. So it's in the feasible range, but it's going to depend on what's actually in that budget. On the tax policy question, as I understand it, they have a plug. They have essentially said, we're going to put tax reform in here. It's going to be revenue neutral from the perspective of tax reform, but it'll bring in other revenues, presumably higher payroll taxes, things like that, as a result of the economic growth. To me, I think you really have to see the details. I mean, what kind of tax reform is it?
Kirsten Haglund here. So obviously this is just a start. These are just recommendations of a budget that Trump has, and even Senator Mitch McConnell said at one point, we don't really pay attention that much to the president's budget. So politically, how does this move forward?
That makes us feel really good about what they're doing in Washington.
Yeah, thanks so much, Senator Mitch McConnell. So how does this move forward politically? Is this just as a negotiation you aim and you start really high knowing that the final product is not going to be exactly what you want? How do House Republicans and Senate Republicans go back to their districts and defend all of these cuts if, in fact, they do go through?
I think that Senator McConnell is realistic about the fact that they don't simply embrace the president's budget. They're going to look at it. They're going to take pieces of it. I mean, if you look at what they've said, they've essentially embraced the House-passed repeal and replace plan. The core of that plan was a big Medicaid reform. It's in the president's budget. So he's thrown his weight behind that, and they have to get that through the Senate now. On other fronts, they're proposing, for example, a 20% cut at the National Institutes of Health. Congress just passed a bill that raises that by $2 billion. It goes complete other direction. So it's going to be a case-by-case basis. I think what you're seeing is the fundamental tension that comes from the fact that these big entitlement spending programs have been pushing out of the budget the sort of annual decisions made by Congress, the defense and non-defense discretionary, and you got to fix the big programs. Then they'll have room to do the things they want to do every year.
Amen. Douglas, I hope they're listening. Doug Holtz-Eakin, good to see you. Thank you for coming back. American Action Forum, read their research. It's incredible.